thank you for having us today. I think you're going to be quite happy with Don. He's quite the character. I've known him since I joined Roll Call in 2017. I've heard about the organization, went to visit one of the World War II veterans, and next month I went to a board meeting. The next month I was the secretary, and a few years later, vice president and then president. So I've been doing this gig about 4 years as the president of Roll Call. Don has been a member of Roll Call almost since the beginning in 2014. So Roll Call started with one man and a vision of bringing World War II veterans together to enjoy a meal and share stories, and he started with 15, and today we have over 1,700 members. Nobody pays a penny to be a part of Roll Call. Anybody can join Roll Call. And the luncheons are free for the veterans. We just ask the non-vets to pay the $10 cost of the meal, which is what it costs us for the meal. So when we ask for donations, or when people invite Don out to speak and they do donations, every $10 donated to Roll Call feeds a veteran. So we spend about $5,000 to $6,000 a month putting on a luncheon. So we don't have to raise a lot of money, but every $10 goes a long, long way. So if you ever feel compelled to donate to an organization, look us up, Roll Call of North Texas. So my friend Don, I've been taking Don to speak and sing all over a lot of places, not even just here in the DFW area, but we've gone to, they can hear me, Don, this thing's plenty loud. He's worried you guys can't hear me. You can hear me back there, right? Okay. So Don goes out and speaks, and he tells his story anywhere that he's invited, and then he will, of course, like to close, I'm sure, with God Bless America, right? So Don is usually he'll stand to do this, but tonight he's having a little trouble with his leg, so we're gonna have him sit down so that he doesn't have to push that leg too much. Don turned 99 in May. At 100th birthday party, so it should be a big shindig, and we're looking forward to that. So Don will be singing at the Rangers game on the 4th for Military Day. He'll be singing the national anthem. He'll be singing again at the Motor Speedway. He just is everywhere singing. Rangers, you got the Rangers coming up. Cowboys, you did that once, I think. But so Don is out at least 4 or 5 times a month speaking, singing, whatever he's invited to do. And as you see in his biography, Don is one of those survivors from the Battle of Iwo Jima. And he's going to tell you the story. He is having a little trouble with his hearing aid, so I'm going to kind of ask him, and when you ask him questions, I'll be whispering in his ear to make sure that he can hear you. Cool? And if you can't hear something, let us know and we'll fix it for you. Don, you ready to come up here and share your story? Good. All right, hang on a second.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
He always picks on me because I outrank him. He doesn't like that very much. It really kind of upsets him when we talk about it. But we've traveled to Pearl Harbor together. We've traveled all over the place. So Don, let me find the first slide. Let's start before that slide. Can you tell everybody here, where were you when you heard about the attack on Pearl Harbor, and what made you join the Marines?
Yeah. I was 16 years old. There were 3 of us in a car. It was an old Ford. We had a radio hooked up. And you know, we loved the big bands. You young people don't know what I'm talking about. But if you did, you'd want to have them back, I can tell you that. Good, popular music. No crazy stuff. No throwing one another all over the place. You held the woman in your arms. You know what I'm talking about? All right. We're sitting in the car and we're listening to music. It's called Detroit. And we have a blanket around us, got a cap and jacket on. We're all 16 years old. And on comes the announcer. He said, ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this broadcast. The President of the United States is going to address the nation. I said, what's this all about? Now this is the 8th of December, the day after Pearl Harbor. And the old man came on. And this is what he said, and I will never forget it. Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date that will live in infamy. United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked upon by the naval and armed forces of the Empire of Japan. I interpret the will of Congress and of the people. We shall gain triumphant victory, so help us God. Great speech, the greatest I ever heard. The old man, FDR, when we walked off of Iwo Jima, I'll tell you about that one. We boarded at Higgins. They took us out to our transport. After fighting for six and a half weeks, we crawled up the ladder, and a Navy boy was up there to grab us and help us in. Well, that's the story on the end. That's how I happened to fall in love with the Marine Corps. My dad was a Marine, and we all remember James Cagg, Jimmy Cagney, Pat O'Brien. They always played sergeants in the Marine Corps, and I always saw those movies. I want to be a Marine. You know what I told my two buddies? I said, well, I'm skipping school tomorrow. I'm going down to the recruiting station. I'm going to join up the Marine Corps. They said, you can't. You got to be 17. I said, I only got 6 months to go. Your mother's never going to sign that. I said, my dad will sign it. She'll sign it. No, she won't. Well, next morning comes up, and I told my two sisters and brother, don't say nothing to Mom. I'm going downtown to join the Marine. I'm going to get the paper anyway. So they took off, and I ran all the way downtown, 1 mile. It was about 8 o'clock, and I walked up on the 4th floor, met a gunny sergeant at the doorway. He said, what can I do for you, young man? I said, I want to join up. He said, how old are you? I said, 16. He said, you can't do that. I can't take you. You got to be 17 years old. Now, Audie Murphy cheated. He got in early. But it was the Army that he got into, and the Marine Corps would not tolerate it. So he said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you the paper you need. You go home to your mother and father and tell them when you're 17, have them sign it, bring it down to me, and we'll do business. Do you want to do that? I said, yes, sir. He said, go. I ran home, ran all the way home. I was so excited, folks, I forgot I skipped school. I walked in the back door, and I showed her the paper. Oh, my God, I skipped school. She said, what are you doing home? And my mom was 11, 10 foot something. 10. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, well, forget it. She was a little short Irish lady. And she said, what are you doing home? I told her, go back to school right now. I said, it's too late. They won't let me in now. Okay, you're going to be doing some work around here. Take that paper and throw it away. I said, yes, ma'am. I ran to the dining room, opened the buffet drawer up, tucked it under some paper, shut the drawer, went outside. Well, 6 months passed by. I'm 17. It's my birthday, May 3rd. And my dad is there. I didn't have a good father, but he was there. And I went and got the paper, and I said, Dad, sign that. He said, what is it? I said, it's paperwork. I'm going to the Marine Corps. Give me a pen. He signed it. He said, give this to your mom. I said, she won't sign it. He said, Vera, that was her name, come here. She walked over, signed this. The boy's going to the Marine Corps. She said, I'm not going to sign that paper. I went through this once before with you. I'm not going through this again. He said, Vera, listen to me. The boy walks out of school. He's been doing little odd jobs here and there. He'll probably turn out to be a bum. Sign the paper. And I did this to my mother. She said, give me the pen. She took the pen, signed the paper. I ran all the way back down. And he said, good, now we can do business. Go home. I signed the papers. He said, go home. Tell your mother and father we'll call them in 2 weeks, take you down to the train station. We'll have a little ceremony. You'll head for San Diego Marine Corps Base. I said, yes, sir. That was it. That's how I got in the Marine Corps.
Hey, Don, didn't you have to go through a physical before? Didn't you have to go through a physical before that?
Yeah, I forgot to mention that, but I wanted to skip it, actually. Now, some of you guys know what I'm talking about. See that door again? Yes, sir. You're going to go in that door, you're going to meet a Navy doctor. He's going to check you over from the top of your head to the tip of your toe, and you ain't never going to forget. You want to do that? Yes, sir. He said, go. I ran into the door, came out smiling. I said, I passed. Okay, go home. We'll give you a call. That was it. Right.
So then you went off to boot camp, right? You went to boot camp. Where did you go after boot camp?
I went to San Diego Marine Corps Base. Now, what they do in 12 hours, we did in 8 hours. Oh, gosh. I must be getting tired.
Weeks.
What they do in 12 weeks, we did in 8 weeks. That top soldier, Marine, he took us down the first morning to the boondocks where the water is, and there's docks there, and there's a couple of transports there. We got down there, and he said, at ease. I want you to all look at those 2 ships there. You see them? Yes, sir. He said, when I get through with you, after 8 weeks, you'll join an outfit, and you'll train with that outfit, and that outfit's going to go aboard one of those transports. And if you keep your nose clean and do as you're told, you might just come back, but I doubt it very much. How'd you like to have that at 17 years old told to? First trip away from home. First time we ever left home. Well, it all happened. To make a long story short, I went overseas. I was with an anti-tank battalion. My job was driving a Dodge pickup truck with a 37 millimeter anti-tank gun between the assistant driver and me. That's why I have hearing aids now. Bam, bam, bam. Yeah. So they broke us up. They couldn't use us because the half tracks that we had would burrow down in the mud, the water. So we joined another outfit, a brand new one. This was Roosevelt's project. Roosevelt wanted Iwo Jima in a worse way because they couldn't come back from B-29s with B-29s from Tokyo. They would go down to the drink. By taking Iwo Jima, getting it out of the way, they could come down if they had to, otherwise go right back to Saipan, and the P-51 had just come out, and it could go there and go back. The other planes would run out of gas. They couldn't do it. That was the purpose of taking Iwo Jima. That was Roosevelt wanted. That's what he got. Did you want to say something?
Wait, I don't know what I just did. So Don, you were heading toward Iwo Jima.
What?
You were heading toward Iwo Jima, and you had a unique breakfast experience.
To make a long story real short, we took off for Iwo Jima. First, I have to tell you, I was a flamethrower operator like Woody Williams. He was in the north, I was on the south, where Mount Suribachi was. We both did the same thing. Now, Woody stayed aboard ship for about 3 and 4 days. They didn't come in right away because he couldn't get any more Marines on the beach. We were elbow to elbow. We were crawling over one another. We couldn't put any more on the beach. That's 3 divisions. We had 2 divisions on there already. All right.
So Don, but tell them before you got to the beach, When they brought the
Yeah.
clay, they brought the clay models out, and then what did they do?
Hey, Sergeant, give me a break, will you? She just loves to push the jar heads, I'm telling you. Yeah. Well, we're aboard ship on the way to Iwo Jima. 2 weeks from Saipan. One morning, we both woke up, there was Iwo. Planes are fighting in the air, we had a free show. There it was, they were shelling the daylights out of it. Navy, everything. And they brought up breakfast. And guess what we had for breakfast that morning? Steak and eggs. Now listen, I had a lot of eggs, cold storage. But I never had a steak given to me by the Marine Corps. So I said to a kid next to me, hey buddy, yeah, what's with the steak? He said, Graves, use your head. What do they do with convicts before they execute them? Man your boats, your landing craft. All right.
Yeah. So then, you were on the landing craft, and you approached the beach, and tell them about the experience you had on the beach.
All right. I don't know, it took us a couple hours, we rallied around, and each battalion went in. Now my battalion, we took Mount Suribachi on the south end by Mount Suribachi, and there's a bay in there, and that's where we went in. The 4th Division went over on Red Beach up towards that way. So we come in towards the beach, and I expected him to get us off on land. He couldn't get in the water because Marines are stacked up. Overboard. I got a 72-pound flamethrower on my little back. 72 pounds. 5 gallons of fuel. I have a man on my left and one on my right. They have to help me. They have to stay by me. When I shot fire in a hole or a foxhole or a pillbox, whatever you want to call it, and they come running out on fire, they would pick them off and kill them. Well, we over the sides I went down in the water. The boys got in with me, they picked me up, we dropped on the sand. To my right, above from here to that wall over there, was John Basilone. He was on a bond tour. His commander was Chesty Puller, who was a captain then. On Guadalcanal, he was a lieutenant. Now, John was on a bond tour. He come into his captain and he said, Skipper, he said, I can't do this anymore. He said, I want to be with my buddies. He said, John, we're making a lot of money through bond tours. He said, I really want to be with my buddies. And he said, John, you're a Medal of Honor. I can't say no. Go. He took off, joined our outfit, trained with us. He hit the beach with it. John was over there, and then all of a sudden, word spread. Basilone just got it from a sniper up on Mount Suribachi, 545 feet away. That's how far it was from where we were. We had to get up on top, turn left, and take that mountain out of the way because it was firing all over 8 square miles. It was just playing havoc with us. Well, I lay in the sand. Now, being of the greatest generation, we had nothing. We had overalls. That's what we wore. We lived in my grandma's cottage on a lake because they had a small farm. And they couldn't care for both, so my mother said, we'll take care of the cottage. You go ahead and you use that for your living. It was wonderful. I spent a lot of my time on the lake fishing. I love fishing. This is in Detroit. Well, anytime we had to go to a party or something, my mother would sponge press our clothes, try and do the best she could. We had tennis shoes. Not what you guys wear. I'm talking about tennis shoes, excuse me, that stink. They're terrible. They always stink. We would not go to church. My mother said, anytime you want to go to church, go. We wouldn't go. We were ashamed. We sort of hung around together, not with a lot of kids. Not too many kids had money. Detroit went through the Great Depression. We got knocked down. So that was the conditions. I never went to church. I lay on that beach, and the only thing I could think of was pray. Never prayed serious in my life. I said, God, I don't know you, but if you can do for me what people say you can do, and you get me off this island, I'll serve you the rest of my life. Amen. He got me off the island. 6 weeks later, the battle was over. I went to occupation Japan 3 months. Got back, let out, went home, and just did what I wanted to do.
Okay, Don, before you tell them about after, let's talk a little more about the island.
Who?
Let's talk a little more about what happened on the island.
And that's
on Iwo Jima.
Huh?
So when you after you got off the beach, how long did it take you to get from the beach to the top of Mount Suribachi?
All right. Let's go back to the beach. When I got to the top of the beach, I was alone. I didn't have my buddies anymore. Do you know what the lifespan was of a flamethrower on Iwo Jima? Take a guess. What would you say? How long? In between?
5 seconds.
Maybe an hour.
How much?
An hour. 60.
4 seconds. We lost every one of ours in the battalion. Woody Williams experienced the same way in his outfit. It was the grace of God that we came home. It had to be. 545 feet from the top of the beach to the base of Mount Suribachi. We all got to the top. We made a left turn. It took us 3 days to travel that distance. 3 days. When we got to the base, they threw hand grenades down on us. Just let them roll, let them lob. We couldn't throw them back up. We had heavy casualties. Finally, we got it settled down a little bit. We started going up the side of the mountain. When we got to the crest, I looked over and I was stunned. They're raising a flag. And I wondered, what in the world? We didn't know anything about a flag. That was never in the job. Where'd they get the pole? Where'd they get everything? Well, here's how it happened. Lieutenant Schreier, that's in that picture you saw, Lieutenant Schreier was my battalion commander. And he was his executive. He called him. He said, Harold, see if you can get to the top up there. Take some boys with you. Take this flag. He took it out of his chest. I got it from the ship skipper. He wondered if I put it up for him. And that was the small flag. And Harold said, aye, sir. He grabbed about 6, 7 fellows. They wandered around the left side. Now, it wasn't too bad that side, because the ocean's there. And they finally got up on top. While we're fighting here, they have a skirmish. He killed about 6, 7 Japanese, and they work on it. Now, here's what you don't know. When you look at the raising of the flag, that pole is drain pipe. They had drain pipe up there. The Japanese would capture and get all the water they could from the rain. They couldn't make their water. We made our water. Our boys made it down the beach. We were never short of water. Here's something else. For the first time, what was that in the arm? What they call that? They shoot it into you after you're wounded.
Morphine.
Huh?
Morphine?
Yes. We had it. They had nothing. Well, there we are. It's all settled. We turn around and look, and all blazes are going on in the north. We stayed there overnight. The next morning, we marched over to a village that wasn't there anymore because the artillery and the Navy leveled that ground. Everybody was killed, but we had a big get-together before we got to Hill 362A. I'll tell you about that one. We had a good skirmish where that village was. I don't know where they came from, but they came at us. 50% of those boys were women, their sweethearts or their wives. They couldn't get them off the land because they wouldn't give any planes to get them off. They had no Air Force anymore. They were in bad shape, the Japanese. All right, we turned to Hill 362A. You'll find it on any map of Iwo Jima. I know you've heard of it. That took our battalion. It was terrible. They came every hour of that big mouth with everything. The next morning, I had a buddy call me. He said, I want to see you on a ledge. We're going up there. So we crawled up on top of Mount Suramacha the next morning. We had a 5-gallon can of gasoline. We had rope. We had everything we needed to set it off. And a cone-shaped demolition that would blow holes right in the ground. We set that can off, swung it on the rope, and then pulled it. And it kabooey and fire blew out of there. They just went to the north, underground. We didn't think there was any casualties at all. Well, we got down from there and headed to the north. Now I'm gonna give you just about 3 things that happened. There was humor in combat. There's humor. We're sitting there one time in a hole, 3 of us. Now there was no fighting in the daytime. Dudes had to hunker down because the snipers would get you. But at nighttime they would have banzai charges, about 200-300 of them. And we would wait for them. We'd kill them all. A few of us got wounded or killed. It was terrible. They come screaming, beating on everything they could make. They made blue horns, everything, to scare you. But you get used to it. Another time, we're sitting in a hole, 3 of us, no squad, they're gone. We fought together. And I'm looking for snipers, so this is the ground, and I'm up there on the ground looking like this. You get careless. I couldn't see nothing. I was up there 15 minutes. I couldn't see anything moving. I got back down, got on my phone, called company CP, and I said, Graves to CP. Go ahead, Graves. And I told him, I can't see anything. Nothing going on. Well, they said, I'll tell you, they know we're here because First Sergeant took around his leg. He's down to sick bay right now. Keep looking. By the way, you got a kid coming for a replacement. He'll be there in about 10 minutes. Good, we can use him. 10 minutes later, 15, he came to the edge of our hole and said, who's Graves? I said, I am. What do you want me to do? I said, sit down. There'll be a lot to do. Well, you got to get up there, and I grabbed the glasses, and he said, Graves, let me have your glasses. I said, no, you get yourself shot. One of my buddies says, give him the glasses. That's what he's here for. I threw him the glasses. I sat back down. We're talking. He's up there looking. And then all of a sudden, he fell back. His helmet fell off and spun next to my feet. When it stopped, we were stunned. When it stopped, I looked down in it like that, and there's a beautiful lady sitting in a chair. And on her lap was a baby. I lost it. I took everything off my back. I just, listen, I cursed the island. I cursed Iwo Jima. Folks, I cursed God. Having let that kid take my place. I never could understand how we who were not Christian maybe heard about God, but not Christian. And we had Christian that. I never could understand it, and I forgot my pledge on the beach. Now I'm going to go through this. Let's say the war is over on Iwo Jima.
Oh, Don, you can't go there yet. You forgot to tell him. You said there's humor. There's humor in war. You have to tell hot chocolate, and then you have to talk about the cemetery leaving the base.
Every time I ask anybody who's familiar with those stories, one guy will say, talk about the hot chocolate. Well, it's pretty well over, folks. They're not coming out now. They're running down the north end, and our boats pick them off so they don't run anymore. They stay where they're at. They're not bothering us, and we're not going to bother them. And I'm sitting there, and I said, I feel like hot chocolate. They said, well, make enough for 3 of us. Now, in combat, you get a D-bar ration, and it's bittersweet chocolate. So we chipped in our 3 bars, and I diced them all up my K-bar, poured water in there, stirred it all up best I could. I got it all ready. And we're talking, shooting the breeze. Then all of a sudden I said, smell that chocolate? Yeah, is it ready? I just about. Then all of a sudden I heard, hey, buddy, very good chocolato. You bring chocolato here. I said, if you want chocolato, you come and get it. He says, oh, no, you bring it here. What about to come and get it?
So then, Don, the battle's over.
Huh?
The battle's over, and you're heading to leave. You're getting ready to leave the beach. What did you do at the cemetery?
Oh, yeah. Another sad thing in my life, I think of it all the time. There were 8 of us, 18 of us left in my company, or our battalion. I don't know what it was throughout the other 2 divisions. We got word we're going to be released by the 3rd Division, Woody's division. So they released us. 18 of us walked down out of 300. We came down by our 5th Marine Division cemetery, which is at the foot of Mount Suribachi. They're gone now. They asked if we would remove the cemeteries. We did it. We moved it. The families came and got exhumed bodies, or we moved them. Well, we met our regimental commander. My battalion commander was killed. And he said, men, I want every one of you, this is the whole division, walk through that cemetery. I want you to say goodbye to your buddies and your officers, come back out, we'll form formation, we'll go in a Higgins boat, and we'll go aboard our transport, we'll head back to Noumea, Hawaii, and we're going to get ready for Japan. I'm sorry, get ready for Japan. They hadn't surrendered yet. Germany surrendered. We went back. Well, wait a minute. As we went in the cemetery, I noticed every time someone walked through the gate of the cemetery, on the left side of the arch was a paper 8.5 by 11, just like you're holding. And something was written on it. I think a CB did it. They're good for that stuff. When I got there, this is what I read. And this includes everyone in this room, and outside, and everywhere else. Fellas, when you go home, tell the folks we did our best, that they may have many more tomorrows. Not one dry eye walked through that cemetery. When we came out, we saw our buddies, we saw our officers, the crosses. We came out, got aboard ship, went back, and then shortly after that, occupation, the war ended. Iwo Jima was considered the worst battle in the Pacific. Some of us say it's the worst battle in the history of the Marine Corps. I think there's one other battle that you folks are familiar with that is compared to it. It's already been recorded. I'll help you all. The battle was in Philadelphia. What? What? Gettysburg. Gettysburg. Gettysburg was as bloody a battle as Iwo Jima. Terrible.
So Don, after the war, you went home, and what did you do?
Bumped around.
Besides that, what did you do?
Yeah. I went to work in the plants, auto industry. Hated to be cooped up. Walked out. My brother the same way. We had a little money coming from the VA. We used that up. Well, then I thought, no, you've got to get a job done. You're not going to make it this way. So I went to work for Nash Kelvinator. I met a little gal. We got married. We were married for about, close to a year. This is interesting. I'll never forget it. We're in an apartment, and we're not getting along. We were talking about splitting up. I was losing some of my best friends. I was a singer. I met a lot of people, and I was losing some. I went up on a fishing trip, northern Wisconsin. We're in Wisconsin now. We lived there 32 years, and after we raised 4 children. Well, I didn't catch any fish, but the bottle bass were biting. You know what I'm saying? I came home, threw myself on the couch. My wife is doing her chores, housework. Phone rang. My wife answered it. She said, I'll go get him. She said, Don, Mr. Bieler wants to talk to you. Now, there was a gentleman from Denmark, Copenhagen, a wonderful old Dane, godly man. He was our landlord once. He would do anything for us. I respected him. I said, Mr. Bieler. He said, Don, I want to talk to you, and I don't want you to say one word. I said, yes, sir. You are a mess. I didn't deny that. You're losing your best friends. You're going to lose your wife. And you're going to lose yourself. And you can't do anything about it. Not the way you are. Would you take my wife and I to a Billy Graham program by way of a moving screen at Oshkosh, which is 16 miles up the lake? You know what I said? I'll change clothes and be right over. Someone is beginning to do something. We walked in that auditorium. Someone said it was 2,700 people. And they knew me because of my singing. I was a mess. My wife and I walked with this couple. We sat down in the front row. My wife next to me. The movie came on. Billy. And this is what he said. You were not your own, you bought for the price. And that price was Jesus Christ on Calvary. What are you going to do with Christ in your life? You need God, you need Him tonight. And when you come, you need Him tonight. You come, your life will be changed. You know you've been a fraud. You know you've been against God Almighty. It's time you come. I swore, folks, he knew about me. And he was talking to me. That's what I thought. They started singing an invitation song. Billy was over with. And I listened to that song. Then something hit me. You hypocrite. You liar. You use God. You use God for your own gain. And he kept His word. He got you out of battle. You went through it. You came out alive. Look what you've been doing. I dropped on the floor. And I cried like a baby. I was a mess. I got up on my feet. And the speaker said, now we sang this song once, we're going to do it twice, we'll be through, we'll send you home. But if you have a desire to meet the Lord Jesus Christ, we'll help you. Come up. We'll give you a Bible, send you home. I said, if they do, I'll go up. They started singing, and I stood up. I didn't know the rest. I didn't know what my wife was doing. And a voice said to me, I don't believe in any hocus pocus stuff. This voice was real. It said to me, sit down, you fool. What about your wife? And I said, I don't think this is going to work. I turned around, looked at my wife. She looked at me and she got up, walked over, took my hand and said, let's both go up. We both walked up to the preachers, gave us a Bible, prayed for us. I felt like a new creature. I fell in love with God. I knew that I was relieved that He didn't hold that against me anymore. We went home, dropped a couple off. We sat in a love chair. It isn't a love chair. It's a big brown leather chair that was a wedding gift. We never sat together on that chair. And we automatically sat in that chair. And I said, you know, we've got an old Bible somewhere. And I looked down at the table, and here it was, an old Bible. I picked it up, I put it on my lap, and I flipped it open. And I said, I don't know anything about it, but I'm going to put my finger on something. And I went like that. And she said, what does it say? And I said, listen, the Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and He knoweth them that trust in Him. Nahum 1:7. God trained me for 7 years. He drilled me in Scripture. He sent me to Moody Bible Institute, and Moody Bible Institute professor said to me, he said, Don, I'm going to be honest with you. I believe you're sincere in what you've experienced. You need theology, and we've got the material for you. Are you willing to study that? Are you willing to complete it? And we'll give you a certificate and a license. I said, yes, sir. He said, go to the library, tell them what you want. I did. I took it home. They didn't want me in the classroom because they thought I caused trouble. Me cause trouble? That's not possible. Well, I went home. 3 of them, 2 boys took me. I studied and I studied and I worked for you for Christ. And then I was getting my upper 40s then, and the boss said, Don, do you ever consider going speaking in churches? I said, I like this. He says, listen, the kids are beginning to call you Dad, for crying out loud. He said, you're working with youth. I said, golly, am I that old? Yeah, he said, you're that old. I said, okay, I'll go. I went home and I began to speak part-time in churches. It got so busy that God allowed someone to send me an invitation letter to come to a church. This is all in Wisconsin. And I went to a country church that had an average of 250 people. It's down to 35. They lost their young people. The preacher there tore the place apart. I never did that in my life. And they said, go home, think about it, and give us a call. I went home. She said, what did you say? How did you do? I said, honey, I don't think I can handle it. Don, you can handle that. You love that. Do it. So I called them up, said I'm interested in visiting again. They had me come again. They had me preach. Everything seemed to go good. And they wanted to know if I would especially work getting young people back in the church. I got almost all the kids back in. We increased from 35 to 275 people in the church. We were known as the singing church. And the grace of God did it, not me. But He allowed me to be the steward, the servant. And I had 5 churches. And I love the Lord. And I'll never forget Him. And I'll die if it takes. He did something for me I will never forget. He can do the same for anyone here that's without Christ today. I'm telling you, It works. It never fails. Well, what do you say?
So Don,
Huh?
before we go to question and answer, would you sing God Bless America for the crowd?
You know, the first time I ever sang that, I forgot this. Thank you. The first time I ever heard God Bless America was over a Jeep radio. Kate Smith. Remember Kate Smith? The big lady. She made that song famous. She had that song printed. And she put the title, God Bless America. I heard her on her radio program give the grand opening of that song. People went crazy. The stores were selling copies of it like crazy. I learned it. I love it. I sing it all the time. How many of you know God Bless America? There you are. Some of you old timers. Well, guess what? You're going to sing it tonight. I'm going to stand, and if you want to stand, that's fine. You don't have to. But it is our second patriotic song. Incidentally, I'm ticked off when I saw that bonfire of our flag today. I'm ticked off. I'm going to talk to Trump about that. All right now, you're going to sing. Here we go. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairie to the ocean.